Hi everybody, this is Dorothy Pacello with the Chicago Club. We are so happy to have you with us today. We miss you so much, but we know how much you really love to travel. Many of you have taken our trips, our day trips all over Southern California, and it's the highlight of our month. It's the highlight of what we are. But we can't be with you on a trip, but we thought we'd try something different. We're going to take a day trip, we're going to take a walking trip, and we're going to be able to show you some of the great silhouettes and some of the different cities that we visit without getting on a bus. So hold on, get off the sofa, because we're going to be taking a trip to many of the favorite destinations that you've heard about in Bill's lectures that I hope you've enjoyed, but we're going to go beyond it, and it'll be live. It will be live in all of our favorite cities in Southern California. This morning we're delighted to have Bill with us. And if you know Bill, you love Bill. But if you don't know Bill, you're going to love him by the end of this session. So Bill, I'd like to introduce you.
Thank you.
Bill Hoffman from Hoffman Tours.
Yeah. Thank you, Dorothy. And I do love the Chicago Club. I've been a tour guide for 7 years. My name is Bill Hoffman. They know me as Hoffy, and I love showing people beautiful cities and beautiful places. We've done over 45 tours with the Chicago Club, and we're going to get back on the bus real soon. So I started my tour business when I got my PhD from UC Irvine. I started to notice how many beautiful places there were in Southern California. And we're lucky here in Orange County. San Juan Capistrano is the birthplace of Orange County. So right now we're at the Mission San Juan Capistrano, which is the 7th of the 21 missions. So as I talk, I'm going to ask Carmen to stand up, and we're going to show you a little bit of the mission as I talk about it. So in this area in 1776, Franciscan missionaries began to convert Native American Ahashiman to the Catholic faith. And they built this incredible mission over the years. It's one of the most famous missions for several reasons. Number one, sadly, there was a terrible earthquake in 1812, and it destroyed the old stone church. When we go inside the mission on a future tour, we're going to look at that. Also, when Mexico, the mission fell into disrepair, but some heroes saved the mission, and they gradually started to rebuild it. When they rebuilt it, they discovered that these wonderful swallows were coming in, and suddenly San Juan Capistrano became a very important tourist destination. Now it's one of the most beautiful and visited missions, and it's a non-profit educational foundation. Here's Dorothy again.
Here we are at the entrance of the mission in San Juan Capistrano. And one thing I want to remind you of, do you realize we're only 20 minutes from Laguna Woods? So that's going to be the beauty of our visit today, because it wasn't a long ride, and it's a ride you can do by yourself, and you can do it safely with your loved ones. So this is the entrance of the San Juan Capistrano Inn and the mission, and I'm going to have Bill talk to more about us about the mission.
Thank you. Thank you, Dorothy. I think it's kind of funny. Look at the sign, and when you come back to the sign, Carmen, it says worth a visit. Are you kidding me? It's one of the best missions. It's totally worth a visit. And 1776, I think you'd agree, is a pretty famous date. So one thing on my tours, they're very educational, and I have us take a second look at places that you may or may not have noticed. So why is San Juan Capistrano so special? Well, the reason is, not only is it historic, but the city did a great job in controlling the architecture and the design. So as we pan down famous Camino Capistrano, you can see the trading post, which is Western false front architecture. You can see all the buildings are low scale. The general plan of San Juan Capistrano does not allow metal buildings, it does not allow glass buildings, it does not allow plastic signs. So what's the result? You get a beautiful historic streetscape without any. To be honest, folks, Orange County grew very fast, and it's mostly built for the car. But downtown San Juan Capistrano is built for history, and it's built for becoming increasingly popular. And by the way, they built a big hotel right next to the mission. So I think you could say God is in the details. with a design review. Every building has to be approved by the Architectural Review Board. So that's why San Juan Capistrano is so special, and it's a wonderful place to walk around in. Speaking of walking around, we're going to take a cruise now to historic San Juan Capistrano. Here we can see the foundation of the old stone church, which was one of the largest structures of all the 21 missions. You can see the large arches, and obviously there was no metal reinforcement in those days. You can see the bells of the mission, several of which are original, and to the left where you see the cross, you can see the rounded gable, which is the symbol of the missions. That's called Mission Revival Architecture, and that became very 1980 to 1920, Mission Revival. So let's take a stroll now. We're going to go in the mission at a later tour, but first of all, let's take a look. Notice all the buildings are brick and wood and stone. That's all that's allowed in this historic downtown. And if Carmen could take a look at the hills on the right, you will notice that there are no houses on the top because the general plan of San Juan Capistrano does not allow building on the ridge lines. Now, if we'll walk down here, I want you to look at this on the right-hand side. You can see it's got the stressed natural wood, the white stucco, and the red tile roof. Before, it was a very tacky building with parabolic arches, which are totally non-historic. They're not the Roman Italian arches that the Spanish adopted. So the city tore down the building and is redoing it. Are we still going? Okay. So you can see that they've got special on San Juan, which is typical of a city that has design review. You can always tell the quality of a city by the sidewalks. Now we're walking towards the famous where you can get a beer at any time of the day. One of my favorite places. Very, very friendly. Now if you look down the street, Carmen, on the right-hand side, down toward El Adobe, you can see 3 adobes that are lined up. Those date back to 1780 and 1790. One of them has been converted to a famous restaurant, El Adobe. Richard Nixon, former President Nixon, would dine there.
Our journey now has taken us to Verdugo Street, another historic part of San Juan Capistrano. And look how gorgeous it is. I'm standing in the middle of the street, but usually it's pretty busy. And they've done a great job bringing this back to its historic state, and just a place so you can enjoy it when you come for different activities and dining. So Bill, tell us about the importance of Verdugo Street, because the next part of our walk is going to be straight down, and there's a lot of great things right at the end of Verdugo Street.
Thank you, Dorothy. Well, the interesting thing about Verdugo Street is that the mission allowed the Native American Ahashiman people to build adobes on Los Rios Street. And Verdugo Street, Verdugo, by the way, means executioner. Verdugo Street was the connection from the mission to the Los Rios neighborhood, which we're going to visit next. So the city of San Juan was so smart, they realized how beautiful this street was and how important it is. So look what they did. They put planters, they repaved it, they even put festival lighting for the evening. Because, let's face it, thousands of tourists are going to walk from the mission down to historic Los Rios district. So they did an absolutely beautiful job refurbishing this street. This is a new building. Wow, it's just gorgeous. Look at the stressed wood. Notice how they, without having an ugly, tacky sign. And look at the down lighting. The down lighting will highlight the sign. They chose a sycamore tree. That's a native California tree. They put some drought-tolerant landscaping in. This is one heck of a town, let me tell you. They also have a nice wine bar and restaurant called Rancho Capistrano. And look at the hay bales. That's typical because San Juan Capistrano is a very equestrian town. My sister-in-law is president of the Equestrian Society, and you don't want to mess with horse people. So there's a Regency Theater. They did a nice job at putting it in brick, part of the design review again. There's an increasing number of great restaurants. And then something great that San Juan Capistrano did is they put in a, I think they serve an important purpose. They allow people to park without destroying the streetscape. So people can park here and walk around to the Mission, Los Rios Historic District, or the many restaurants. So any great downtown has a parking structure. Now, as we look around to the right, you can see the famous Capistrano Depot. When the southern Capistrano, it totally changed the town. That's a beautiful Mission Revival structure, and it is now a restaurant. By the way, I proposed to my wife at the depot. Woohoo! Okay, now as we walk towards Los Rios, you can see the city has put in these vintage lampposts, large. I think those are cool. And then I want to point out something. I'm a little corny, Dorothy will say this, but look at the bollards. Any good city that has a pedestrian area has bollards. Bollards keep cars out and they can be attractive. Now something that's brand new is this San Juan Capistrano clock sign. It was put in by the Rotary International, and it's very historic, and this is where people get on the train. So I think it's totally appropriate. Here's the information kiosk, nicely historic. And this is where people get on the train. And they can go south all the way to San Diego. It's about an hour drive. Or you can get on the train and you can go north and you can go to Los Angeles. And it's also just about an hour. Okay, now we're entering Los Rios Historic District. This is actually the oldest continuously lived in neighborhood in California, because as I said, the Mission allowed the Native Americans and the soldiers to build adobes along the river and along Los Rios Street. They didn't have to stay within the confines of the Mission. So historically, what's significant about this is it was declared a National Register Historic District. That means it is so famous historically that it's been recognized by the national government. And if you have a structure here, you can get a tax break if you refurbish it. So this is beautiful. This wooden structure here is an example of what came in after the adobes. This is a 1880s board and batten type Western, because San Juan Capistrano was kind of a rough Western town from about 1850 to 1890. Okay, this is Los Rios Street in Los Rios Historic District, and look at how beautiful it is. This is the oldest neighborhood in California. The trees are over 100 years old. The buildings were built in 1880 and 1890. And let's face it, Orange County is a new county, so people are thrilled to come here in the history and the shade. It's absolutely gorgeous. And in the spring, when the butterfly sanctuary plants are blooming, people go crazy. I mean, we need history and we need places like this. And by the way, the Ramos House Cafe is a fantastic place. It's right here. It's a fantastic place to have brunch. It's a very, very creative menu. Okay, we're walking down.
I wanted to share with you the Los Rios area because it's so wonderful. I can't begin to tell you how many visits I've come to San Juan and I never crossed the tracks. Figured it was the other side of the tracks. But boy, is this special. And the historic components that are here, and it's historic, they will look like this forever. So make sure when you come, wear your walking shoes, because there's a lot of great things to see. But the historic components go on and on between restaurants and shopping, and even a lawyer's office is great. Oh, and here's a horse.
Yeah.
Look at this. We just told you about the equestrian. Look at her. And this is
what kind of horse is it? It's called a Pony of America. That looks bigger than a pony. How old is your horse?
She's 11.
Wow, that's very cool. And do you ride her every day when you can?
Yeah, I do. I ride 6 days a week.
Wow, how come you're riding bareback?
I have a better feel bareback. I like bareback.
That is cool. Is San Juan a great equestrian town?
It is.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different.
That's cool. Well, you're great. Thank you for showing off.
Yeah, of course.
Okay,
Have a good day.
bye-bye. Okay, so let's walk over now. There used to be 40 adobes on Los Rios Street outside of the Mission. This is the Montañas adobe. The woman who lived here in 1880 was Polonia Gutierrez, and she married someone named Montañas. But she was quite an important figure in the Los Rios neighborhood. She was a midwife, so she helped to birth a lot of children. And one great story about her is there was a drought, so she also loved teaching. So she got her students together, and they did field trips to pray for rain. They went north, no rain. They went south, no rain. So they decided to have another field trip, and it started raining cats and dogs. So this is the beautiful Montañas adobe. And you can see this is the butterfly garden. You can probably see that butterfly right there. I'm not sure what kind it is. It certainly isn't a monarch. But this place blooms all year long, especially in the spring. It's absolutely gorgeous. And this is cared for by a volunteer group called the Gardening Angels. They take care of this for free, and they also take care of the beautiful landscaping of the San Juan Capistrano Mission. Wow, look at this beautiful globe mallow. It's a subtly beautiful plant. So you can see we've still got some bloomage even though it's summer. And that's a good picture of the... By the way, adobe was the preferred construction material since there wasn't enough wood, and adobe is a good insulating material because it's thick and it stays cool in the summer. Okay, this is something I really love about this Los Rios Historic District. They put a history wall in. So they talk about the first people who lived here were the Native Americans called the Ahashiman, and they lived close to water. When they became Christianized, they became known as the Juaneño Indians. But this history wall, let's take a look. This Rios adobe is one of the oldest continuously lived in homes. The original Rios was one of the soldiers of the Spanish Army. So you can see some of these historical pictures. I want to show you one that's a really sad story. So if you take a look at this woman, Modesta Avila, she didn't like the train coming through because it was noisy. So one day she put her laundry out to block the train. She took it away before the train came, but she still got in trouble, and she was sent to San Quentin prison, and she died at age 22. Now that is depressing. Isn't that sad? All she wanted to do was get a little less noise in town. So there's the depot. You can see before a lot of landscaping. Here's one of the original residents, Damian Rios, whose family still lives in that adobe. And there's Delfina Olivares, who has a beautiful coffee shop right down the way, and Chief Clarence Lobo of the Juaneño Band of Indians. And I want Carmen, the city of San Juan, they really have a good touch. Look at this beautiful Los Rios Park. They use beautiful stone, drought-tolerant landscaping. They have a parking structure, not a parking structure, a parking lot which is dirt, which is appropriate. This is historic. You don't need to pave everything. And look at these kids. They're enjoying their muffins here, beautiful sitting space, there's shade. This place is, I think this is the coolest place in Orange County. I mean, it's historical, it's comfortable, and it's beautiful. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so this is the Rios adobe, and Stephen Rios is in the same family that first settled here in the late 1700s from a Spanish soldier family. Really?
Yeah, whoa.
Because there's the bristlecone pines, up by...
Up high in Colorado, we have a lot of them in there.
So this is the Los Rios Historic District sign. Notice it says National Register of Historic Places. That is the second highest designation that a district can have. The only higher designation is a National Landmark District. For example, Savannah, Georgia, Charleston, South Carolina are national landmark historic districts, but this is the second highest designation. So Carmen's going to show you the connection from Los Rios District to Verdugo Street. Isn't that a beautiful connection? And look at how they dolled it up, and I think it's totally appropriate. Okay, so we're going to conclude our walking tour at the O'Neill Museum, which is the headquarters of the San Juan Capistrano Historic Society. And if you take a look at the structure, it's typical Victorian. Victorian architecture means architecture before 1900. You can see the lace barge board right underneath the 1331 address sign. You can see the decorative small fencing. This decorative woodwork was typical of Victorian architecture. I would call this home folk Victorian. Also, the man who lived here was Juan Garcia. He was a saloon owner, and this structure was actually closer to Camino Capistrano, but he sadly was murdered, and they never found out what the motive was. One thought was they wanted to get his property, but anyway, another family called the Pryors bought the residence, and they moved it here to historic Los Rios Street. Now, the last thing I want to say is it's called the O'Neill Museum because the O'Neill family donated $60,000 to refurbish this museum, which I think is wonderful. Remember, the O'Neill family Richard O'Neill a rancho from the Forster family, and that became Mission Viejo, Rancho Santa Margarita, and Rancho Mission Viejo. So the O'Neill family is a ranching family, and they also develop beautiful planned communities. So I hope you enjoyed our walk through history, and I want to bring it back to Dorothy. Remember to take a second look. There's lots of beauty around.
Thank you, Bill. This has been fabulous, and I hope you enjoyed our walk through San Juan Capistrano. I know we're not on the bus. I know we're not all together, but we would love to have you come to San Juan and enjoy the things that we have this morning. Remember, it's a short ride. It's 20 minutes. And look at that car. Somebody left their car here. It's been a while, but needless to say, you can drive to San Juan, enjoy your day. Come hungry, because there's a lot of great restaurants, and we'll talk about that on another visit with us. But we appreciate your time. We look forward to seeing you again. So in the meantime, consider this a hug. We love you. Bye-bye.